Hey there. Before we jump into today's episode, we want to thank you for tuning into Unapologetically First Gen. This is the podcast where two sisters share what it's like to grow up as first-generation immigrants, everything from the hilarious moments to the heartfelt ones. Each week, we'll bring you personal stories, honest conversations, and amazing guest interviews that celebrate the first-gen experience. So if you love laughing, learning, and feeling connected, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with your friends. It really helps us grow. If you want to contribute to episode topics and get exclusive content, join our Patreon linked in the show notes.
Hello, I'm Stacy, the younger sister. I'm a former teacher turned copywriter, cat mom, and slightly obsessed with romantasy books.
And I'm Lesley, the older one, operations expert, home baker, mom to 2 kids and a bunny. Hi. Today in Unapologetically First Gen, we're going to talk about what it's like having 43 first cousins.
It's funny because I actually was having dinner with my in-laws yesterday and I was talking about how we have 43 cousins. One of the people were like, well, my mother has 21 cousins and they thought that was so big. So to be like, well, actually.
You were one-upping all those conversations.
Yes, I was. Do you want to give us the breakdown of our 43 cousins?
Yes, I know I've mentioned being, operations extraordinaire. Naturally, I have a spreadsheet that lists the cousins. So in preparation for this, I went through and I color-coded by country. So we have 15 first cousins in the US, 12 in Portugal, 13 in Canada, and 3 have passed away.
Yeah, they are all over the place. Somehow we ended up in only 3 countries so far.
We'll see if people start moving around.
It will be interesting to look at the political climate and see this again in like 3 years and see if these numbers have shifted at all between Canada, Portugal, and the US.
I mean, maybe all of New England will secede to Canada.
That would add another 15 people to the Canada list.
Yeah, all of the cousins in the US are in New England. You're right. That might
Yeah.
be the case, but we're all here now.
Oh, wait, that's not true though, because somebody's in Texas.
Okay, that will add 14.
Yes. Going up. Okay, so let's kind of back up a little bit. We have 43 cousins. 15 of them are in the US. What was it like for you growing up with 43 first cousins?
So I think before we talk about that, it's important to talk about how close in age some of us are. So there were essentially what I think of as 4 waves of cousins. So the first wave are older than us. They're closer to our parents than they are to this generation of cousins. And part of that is because our parents are on the younger side of their siblings. So their older siblings were having kids when they were still growing up. So we do have cousins who are like de facto adults.
Yes, they're definitely much closer with our parents' generation than they are with the cousins, I feel like.
I agree, yeah. And then the next wave is me and everybody born between 1983 and I'd say 1985. I think there are 11 of us, and a lot of us grew up in the same area. And I'm going to come back and talk about that. Wave 3 is you, just you.
Just
no
me,
one
I'm by myself.
no one else. And then the next wave, there were 2 that were born even after you.
Well, one who's a first cousin, but then the other people are then second cousins.
No, 2 are first cousins. Oh, no, you're right. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. This is why we needed notes.
This is why
You're
there's a
right.
spreadsheet.
This is why there's a spreadsheet. So then, yes, 1, and they're closer to the second cousins, especially that first wave of cousins' children. They're closer to those people than they are to their first cousins.
Oh, yeah, because they're the same age. I was the one who was kind of shafted, where everybody is like 8 to 10 years older than me or like 5 years younger than me. I really didn't have that many cousins around growing up. The exception being and when I vacationed on the islands, there's a few cousins that are within 2 to 3 years of me. And so those were my cousins that I got to play with and hang out with. But pretty much I got shafted.
Yeah, where I had a totally different experience. We would do sleepovers at each other's houses for the full week of school vacation week. And I remember this really well that February vacation, I would go spend a week at one cousin's house, and then April vacation, they would come to our house and spend the whole week, which kind of sounds like a parental nightmare, to be honest. As an time, it was amazing. It was so much fun and it was insanity. But now, as an adult, I'm like, "God, no, no, not doubling
You
my
wouldn't
children."
trade a week of like lots of kids running around your house for a whole week of no kids.
Ask me this question when my kids are a little older because right now the little one's like snuggly. Imagine spending a week away from either of them right now. Like the little one's super snuggly. The older one is in her mom's my best friend phase. So now I couldn't be away from them. Like I'm going to be traveling for work and I'm going to be gone for 2 nights, 3 days. And I am so concerned that they're not going to be okay. They are.
They're
They're going to
going to
be
be
totally
fine.
fine. They're going to be so okay. But I'm going to miss them. I mean, I'm going to enjoy sleeping the full night in a bed all by myself.
You're going to be in start position.
I am. I'm really going to enjoy going to sleep without reading a kid's book. I'm going to enjoy uninterrupted showers, but I'm also going to miss them.
You know what's funny is as you're saying the bedtime story thing, I also did vacations with one of the cousins, but it was a younger cousin. And so I took this very older cousin type of role and I would pick out the books that I was going to read to him at bedtime. And that was what I did on my vacations. It was like that and play GameCube. Those were my childhood vacation memories with my
You were
cousins.
like, I'm going to be your teacher.
Basically, I know I started young.
That's okay. When we were little, I made you my student and I was the teacher. It was
Funnily
like
enough, your daughter will say, "Let's go play school." And I say, "Who's the teacher?" And she goes, "You."
you.
Obviously, me.
So besides sleepovers, we would have these really big family get-togethers because all the kids were around the same age. There were cookouts at the aunt's house with the pool. We would have New Year's Eve parties, where all the kids and all the parents got together. I have a lot of great memories of growing up alongside my cousins, and we were incredibly close. And I think even now, I think we have a couple of cousins. I'm going to say off the top of my head, I could name four cousins that would either be jailed with us or bail us out of jail. And I'm going to make it a point to send all of our cousins this particular episode because I want to see if they will call themselves out. So there are four of you that I think would get in trouble with us or bail us out of jail. If you think you're one of those four, text us. We want to know. We want to know who thinks they're in that group of four. I can actually already hear one of them being like, "It's me. I'm the top of that list." I'm not going to say who it is because this is just going to be a fun game for me now. And I think one of the super interesting things too about having that many cousins that close in age to me is that the relationships have shifted as we've grown up. We're obviously not as close. I'm not sleeping over anyone's house for school vacation week, but it's still strong. I think I could still call on any of those if I needed anything, really. I genuinely think I could. And that just comes from having grown up in the trenches and causing chaos all together at the same time often. I don't know, it was pretty cool. But you had a very different experience.
Yeah, and to give some context, I'm 8 years younger than Lesley. So it's basically like All of those cousins are a decade older than me, pretty much. But yeah, I had a different experience. It's weird because that generation that you're really close with, everybody was kind of like my big sister. Like, even somebody who I would say is in the oldest generation, but I think fits in better with us. They'll be like, hey, I changed your diapers and now we're very close friends. You know, similar to how me and you had to shift our relationship going from I'm the younger sister to now we're equal partners. It feels very much the same way where like I feel like it took a long time for me to be like, okay, I'm cool with these cousins and they're not just like my big cousins that, I don't hang out with them or like whatever. It's just kind of like I'm one of you guys now.
Uh, um, I just want to say that that particular cousin that you're referencing is definitely one of the four.
Oh, I know. And, it's so funny because at your 40th birthday party, another one of the cousins who I'm pretty sure is also on that list, she was joking and teasing me and being like, hey, Stacy just got accepted into this group, so she's really trying to not get kicked out. And so it's really funny. That was actually that day we recreated a photo of I think it was my first birthday. We recreated this picture of when I was a baby, and then all the big cousins are surrounding me. And then we did it again for your birthday.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And we had stand-ins for
We
people who couldn't
did.
be there. It was amazing. I love recreating photos. If anybody has any of those recreated photos, please share them on social media with us if you are able to. They're just really fun to look at.
I think one of my favorite cousins' memories is vacationing in Dad's van and taking that van to like the Cape or to Canada. It's not even like I actually remember being in the van, but I just like remember the van as a concept.
Yeah, that was back before, seatbelt laws were enforced. The back seat of the van could turn into a bed, and we would put the bed down and like kind of just lounge or sleep on the way to usually Canada. It was really fun. Yeah, those were such cool trips. And what was amazing about some of those trips were leaving here, we weren't all going to the same destination, but we were all traveling together. So we would all go to Canada in this van and drop off cousins and aunts and uncles at their families, like the other family's house, and then we would go on to visit the family that we were visiting. And it was just, we were sharing essentially the road trip, but not the experience of the vacation, which was, I think, really interesting. I have a lot of fond memories of that, which I'm like, God, I can't believe we just like rolled around in the car. There were definitely not enough seats for the people. So you
Oh,
just
no
like
way.
sat on the
That's why we
floor.
had the van.
You just sat on the floor of the van, like, no big deal. Gosh, the early 90s are wild. A wild time.
If it makes you feel better, I definitely also did that in college because one of my roommates had a minivan and we would definitely pile in there because it was hard to come by a sober driver for an event. So you really had to take advantage.
Right, right, right. And I remember going in the back of someone's station wagons. One of the aunts had a station wagon, and we would sit in the back, and that was such a fun time, sitting essentially in the trunk of the station wagon. I remember one time you were a baby, and um, the older cousin was holding you in the trunk. You were a baby, and she was just holding you in as we sat in this trunk of the station wagon, and you just projectile vomited all over the place.
Why is there so many stories about me projectile vomiting as a baby?
Those are the stories that stuck in our minds. We were just
It's so
like,
funny. Apparently, I was an excellent vomiter. I competed in long distance vomiting because maybe it's like because there's 43 cousins that everybody has a vomiting story about me, but I've heard so many.
that memory I hadn't thought of in a long time. That just sort of came up as we were talking about cars. So I'm sure there are others. I'm sure there are other stories about you vomiting that I could dredge up from my memories.
I think that's so funny. One of the things that I was thinking about as you were talking about like sharing this road trip was I was having a conversation with one of our aunts this past weekend, and she was really talking about how when they came here and they bought the house, that they were really stressed out about money. But because mom and dad were able to take care of their kids, which are the kids in the first generation, because they were able to do childcare for them, they were able to like get a second job and like you really start to like save money and like take out that financial aspect. And so I think like a big benefit of having like such a big family was there was so many people to lean on and to really support each other. So like the school vacation weeks, right? Like switching, basically like dropping your kids off to get a break. But I think that was really a big part of like why our family was able to like make it in this country.
Yeah, and it's also the reason that I am able to lean so heavily on the village for my own family is because that's kind of what I know. And that's how we were raised, and that's how I want my kids to be raised, is to have this sort of this concept of, the family's more than just your mom, your dad, your sibling, but it's made up of aunties and grandparents and people that are like your aunts and uncles and people that are like your grandparents. That's really important to me, and I'm sure that just comes from the way that I was raised and how important those relationships with my cousins were.
Yeah, it's so interesting, like, because now the next generation, which is when you're thinking about the waves, right? The second wave, that wave is all having kids right now in the past like 5 years. Really, COVID was kind of the shift where everybody was having kids in that wave. And I think one of the cool things is, like, for me, some of my favorite memories are thinking back of going to Portugal, being on the island, being at grandma and grandpa's house, having those memories with grandma and grandpa, but also derping around with my cousin and making soup out of the herbs grandma had in the garden. And of course, I'm going to tell the toothpaste story, which
I was
is
waiting for it.
the one time I got in trouble with my grandma because me and my cousin were pretending to clean the house as good little Portuguese girls should be doing. And we spread toothpaste all over her bathroom window. And my grandmother was so angry at us because if you've never cleaned a bunch of toothpaste off of something, it is quite annoying.
Did she make you clean that up?
I don't remember. I remember the feeling of her being mad. I don't actually remember what happened after. I do remember spreading the toothpaste on the window though, because that was one of the games we would play, is go into the house and then jump out the bathroom window. And then from there you could climb onto the roof of the house, and then you could also climb back into the forest. So I don't know. I think we were just thinking it was like fun and kind of outside. I'm not sure what the thought process was. We thought it was fun.
Just realized how insane that end of that story must have sounded to anybody who's never been in a rural area where you jumped out of the bathroom window and climbed on the roof and then went into the forested area.
It's because it was on a cliff, so there was a water tank behind the house, so you could easily climb onto the water tank, and from the water tank you could just walk onto the roof. But then if you stepped the other way, you could then climb into the woods, basically.
Yes.
We probably have a picture of it we can find. Well, we can add it to the Patreon. So if you're not subscribed, get in there so you can get all the behind the scenes on all these episodes.
Yeah, we should definitely post a picture of what we're talking about here. And further up that cliff was my little hiding spot where you were overseeing a pasture with cows, and there was a bull one summer over there, but it was just this like really quiet place that my introvert heart really loved.
I love that. And I love that I love thinking about like now that generation, second wave, they're all having their kids, and I love thinking about when you bring your kids to the islands now and they get to make the same kinds of memories and derp around in the forest and outside and get to know like they're the next generation of little cousins. Like that feels very heartwarming to me.
Yeah, my daughter will have 3 cousins her age there.
Yep.
They were all born within 6 weeks of each other, something like that.
And so that'll be cool too, because then she'll have her Portuguese cousins, and then she'll be really good at speaking Portuguese because, she actually will want to with them.
Yeah, and I think my son's so close in age to her that he won't have that, like, oh, there's no one for me to play with. I think they'll just end up adopting him as
Yeah,
their.
I think right now the age difference feels a little bigger, but as they get a little bit older, it'll feel pretty similar.
Yeah, I did notice they've already started conspiring against us.
Of course.
It's really cute. She likes to hide and then jump out and be like, surprise. When she goes to hide and you ask her brother, where is she? He will do his like arms out, shoulders up, like, I don't know.
That's so funny. They're so cute.
I think that's the beginning of conspiring against the parents.
It must be. It must be. We always conspired. We were a team.
We
We can
were
do a whole nother episode about this,
we're
but it
not
was
we're
always.
not gonna do anything like that. I'm not trying to incriminate. I'm still trying to win over being the favorite. So
I mean, I think it's hard now that you've birthed their new favorite children.
yeah, I'm never gonna be the favorite anymore.
You had a good 8 years before it came around, okay?
I'm not sure I was the favorite then.
We cannot wrap up this episode, though, without talking about mom's cousins.
We absolutely can't. How many cousins does our mother have? We have no idea.
We asked her. She has no idea.
She needs a spreadsheet. So this is just kind of funny. Before COVID, we went on this trip to visit 6 of the 9 islands. Everywhere we went, we were introduced to a new person who was my mother's cousin.
This is not an exaggeration.
No. And still to this day, we go to like a Portuguese feast, get introduced to mom's cousin. New person, never seen them before. New cousin.
It's so funny, too. When I was on the island this year, I went to this little market that's in the neighborhood where mom grew up, and
The one that's owned by her cousin.
the one that's owned by her cousin. And I'm pretty sure I saw him outside, and I'm like, do I start this conversation of like, hey, I think you're my mom's cousin? And I'm literally like, it was like raining, and I was like, do I actually want to have this conversation? And I decided against it because um I think I was getting hangry. But basically, when you have these conversations with people, it's like a very Portuguese thing. You start going down the ancestry trail. So it's like a less technological ancestry DNA where you're like, hey, who is your grandpa? And then you basically figure out exactly how you're related. And that's like a normal thing to do.
Yeah. And you go through everybody, and everybody has the same name. The prior generation used the same like 5 names. So you have to specify not just their name, but where they're from or what they did.
And like usually you have to give like one or two middle names because like our aunts, we have like several Maria-ish and they're all Maria of something. So you have to get specific with not just first names because there's usually a combination of names that mean a specific person.
Yes. And sometimes you have to go into spouses.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So you might be like Maria, married to Antonio, who is from the Villa and works with João from Santa Barbara. Like that's what you're talking about. And that's just to get the one person. And then once you find a connection, then you start going through the lineage.
Yeah, it's intense. And this is why our mom doesn't know how many cousins she has. It's got to be in the hundreds.
Judging by how many people I've met, I'm going to say you're right. It's so absurd that whenever we meet anybody new from any of the islands, when we walk away, we're like, Mom, is that your cousin? And I would say 9 times out of 10, she says yes.
Well, because when you think about it, like mom, I'll have to reference your spreadsheet to fact check this, but mom has what, 11, 10, 11 siblings?
Something like that.
And then
I also have
it's
to.
ish. And then same with my dad. It's like around like 8, 9, or 10. I don't know. I never know the real number. But it's like that was that generation. They all had a bunch of kids. So when you think about like my grandparents and their siblings, they all had a bunch of kids. And so now you're talking about like you probably had 10 aunts and uncles on each side, and they all had a bunch of kids.
Yeah, so Mom had 13 siblings, but 4 passed.
Okay.
like as children, so they didn't have kids. So we're talking about she only had 9 siblings that had children.
And you're talking about a very Catholic place where everybody who was a grown adult pretty much had children.
Yeah, we're definitely talking in an era before birth control
Mm-hmm.
in a very Catholic place. So it makes sense that you had these large families, and it would make sense that the generation before had a large family. So that's how you end up with 43 first cousins.
Yeah, and it's been a great experience having like this huge support network because there's definitely people who I don't see very often, but it's still like really fun to get together and like hang out with them and see what they're, you know, what they're up to, what their kids are up to, and just like having like I love when we have these like big family reunion parties because I'll see people I haven't seen in like a decade, and it's so cool to like catch up and still like be connected with people even if you're not able to be close to them because it's impossible to be close with 43 people.
It is, and we definitely have, I would say, the majority of the cousins. When we get together, it becomes like no time has passed. You just instantly go into that flow of closeness, which is
Yeah. So if you are one of our cousins and you want to come on the show, shoot us a DM. And if you are not one of our cousins and you want to tell us about how many cousins you have and what life has been like with your cousins, also shoot us a DM. If this episode resonated with you or you have your own first gen stories to share, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on Stacy Braga Copy or Streamline with Lesley on both Threads and Instagram, linked in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share the podcast with someone who'd love it. Until next time, keep embracing your roots and making your own path.